History of World War I. Have you ever wondered how one single gunshot could plunge the entire world into a devastating war? It sounds like something out of a movie, but it's exactly what happened to kick off World War I. Let's travel back to the summer of 1914. Europe was like a giant powder keg, filled with tangled alliances, intense rivalries, and a frantic arms race. Countries were sizing each other up, building massive armies and navies, just waiting for a spark. That spark came on June 28, 1914, in the city of Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was visiting with his wife, Sophie, as they rode through the streets in an open-top car. A young Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip stepped out of the crowd and fired his pistol. Both the Archduke and his wife were killed. This single act of political assassination lit the fuse. Austria-Hungary, furious, and backed by its powerful ally Germany, issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia. They blamed Serbia for the attack and made a list of demands so extreme they were almost impossible to accept. When Serbia couldn't meet all the demands, Austria-Hungary declared war. This is where the tangled web of alliances comes into play. It was like a domino effect. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of Serbia, began to mobilize its massive army. Germany, seeing Russia mobilizing, declared war on Russia. Then, France, allied with Russia, was drawn in. Germany had a plan, to Schlieffen, planned to avoid fighting a war on two fronts. The idea was to quickly knock out France by invading through neutral Belgium, and then turn all its might towards Russia. But invading Belgium was a huge mistake. Britain had a treaty to protect Belgium's neutrality, and when German troops crossed the border, Britain declared war on Germany. Within a few short weeks, the great powers of Europe were all at war. Millions of young men, full of patriotic fervor, eagerly signed up, thinking it would all be over by Christmas. They couldn't have been more wrong. The dream of a quick war quickly vanished on the Western Front. The initial German advance into France was halted, and both sides dug in. They created a vast, complex network of trenches stretching for nearly 500 miles. From the North Sea all the way to the Swiss border. This was the birth of trench warfare. A brutal and horrifying new kind of combat. Life in the trenches was miserable. Soldiers lived in mud and filth, surrounded by rats, lice, and the constant threat of death. Daily life was a grim routine of standing guard, repairing trenches, and enduring endless boredom, punctuated by moments of sheer terror. The area between the opposing trenches was called no man's land. It was a barren, crater-filled landscape, tangled with barbed wire, and it was a death trap. Commanders would order massive frontal assaults, sending waves of soldiers over the top into a hail of machine gun fire and artillery shells. Battles, like the Somme and Verdun, became infamous for their staggering casualty counts, where hundreds of thousands of men died for just a few yards of ground. The Industrial Revolution had given them new, terrifying weapons like machine guns, heavy artillery, poisoned gas, and tanks, which made the slaughter incredibly efficient. It was a stalemate of attrition, where the goal was simply to wear down the enemy. While the Western Front is the most famous, the war was a global conflict. On the Eastern Front, the fighting was more mobile, with vast armies clashing across the huge territories of Russia and Austria. The Ottoman Empire, which had joined the Central Powers, fought against the Allies in the Middle East and the Gallipoli Peninsula. There were also battles in Africa and Asia as colonial powers fought over territories. The war was also fought at sea, with Britain's powerful navy imposing a blockade on Germany, slowly starving its population. Germany responded with a new and terrifying weapon, the U, or submarine, which torpedoed Allied shipping without warning. This unrestricted submarine warfare would have a huge consequence. In 1915, a German U-boat sank the British passenger liner, the Lusitania, killing over 1,000 people, including 128 Americans. This act outraged the American public. For a while, the United States remained neutral, but Germany's continued U-boat attacks and a secret proposal to Mexico to attack the U.S., known as the Zimmermann Telegram, were the final straws. In April 1917, President Woodrow Wilson asked Congress to declare war, saying the world must be made safe for democracy. The arrival of fresh, enthusiastic American troops known as doughboys, gave a much-needed boost to the exhausted Allied forces. At the same time, the Central Powers were starting to crumble from within. Years of war, blockade, and immense casualties had taken their toll. Revolutions and unrest were spreading. In Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 led to the country's withdrawal from the war, but Germany couldn't capitalize on it. The final Allied push in the summer and fall of 1918, known as the 100 Days Offensive, broke the German lines. The German military in high command knew the war was lost. On November 11th, 1918, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, an armistice was signed. The guns on the Western Front finally fell silent. The aftermath was devastating. An entire generation of young men was lost. Over 15 million people, both soldiers and civilians, were dead. Empires that had stood for centuries, the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, the Russian, and the German, were all gone. The map of Europe was completely redrawn. The leaders of the victorious nations met at the Paris Peace Conference in 1919 to hammer out a treaty. The resulting Treaty of Versailles placed harsh terms on Germany, forcing it to accept full blame for the war, pay massive reparations, and give up territory. Many historians argue that the bitterness and resentment caused by this treaty sowed the seeds for another, even more destructive conflict just 2 decades later. World War II. World War I, the Great War, was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Tragically, it wasn't. But it fundamentally changed the world, ushering in a new era of politics, technology, and warfare. And its legacy is something we still feel to this day. Thanks so much for watching this deep dive into one of history's most pivotal moments. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more history content. Let me know in the comments what historical event you'd like to see covered next. See you in the next video.